The following is a GoPowercat.com production.
Man, Big 12 tournament action is live and well. Great games yesterday. I know some of your teams may not have made it, but you know what? The Big 12 tournament, it was still really, really good. It's the best conference in the country. Can't wait for today's games. This is the Big 12 Insiders.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
All right, welcome everybody back to the Big 12 Insiders. This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, along with Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowercat. Fitz, man, yesterday, it was some good basketball games. There was a couple of games that maybe got away. Middle of the second half, the K-State game got away from K-State. But for the most part, it was some good basketball. And I'm looking forward to the games tonight. I mean, it was chalk, basically. The Big 12, best team, best conference in the country. The four best teams ended up making to the semis. I don't know if anybody anticipated that, just for the simple fact that, you know, it'd been all over the place all year. But, you know, sometimes the cream rises to the top, and these were the best four teams, and they ended up making it to the semifinals.
I thought it was really interesting yesterday. After all this, Kansas State and Cincinnati getting upsets and TCU powering through, maybe we would see someone sneak in, but nope, here we are. The most unpredictable, hard to survive conference in college basketball has the top four seeds in the semifinals. So, you know, in some ways that's good for the conference. And, you know, we've talked about this. How important is winning this thing? You know, if Houston's national title caliber, I mean, I might pick them on my bracket just because they have the ability to smother people into surrendering. But do they want to add another day to their stop in Kansas City? I guess it's only 3 days, 3 games for the top seeds, but it's still a little stretch leading into the most important time of year.
Yeah. Well, the one thing about Houston, well, the Big 12 in general does a good job of, they moved the tournament a couple of years back. They moved the final to Saturday. That helps, you know, so you get the extra day of rest. So I think if anybody, not just Houston, anybody wants to go win this thing, obviously they're going to try to win this thing. That part of it helps. It's kind of a built-in rest for them, which is a good thing. Then if they get a Friday game, that's even more of a rest. So you get even more of a rest by doing that. So I think that all of that stuff is good. But I think Houston in particular fits. Not that anybody else doesn't want to have a Big 12 title, but I think Houston in particular wants to show people, hey, we came into this thing. Yes, we were in the American Conference before, but we were a powerhouse there, and we're a powerhouse now. And we're coming into this Power 5, this Big 12 conference, and we mean business. And we not only did we win the regular season, we won the postseason title to show everybody we are going to be somebody that needs to be reckoned with in the future.
I know, man. I can't reckon with them. They're that good. It's just unbelievable how dominating they are. And I think the Big 12 made them better. I hate to make it sound like I credit the conference for everything, but you know, they went out and got a couple knocks upside the head on the road in conference play early on, and they adjusted, acclimated, up their game to the level that they can play. They were always good at home. They were the most dominant team this season at home, which is a remarkable statement if you know the history of the University of Kansas and home games in this conference. But they were the most dominating, and then they learned how to do it on the road a little bit better. And that is why I think they're so dangerous now, that they won't be playing any more home games, because they figured it out how to do it away from home. And I just think the style they play, it isn't about hitting shots, and it isn't about, you know, things that can come and go. They just absolutely take you apart defensively and make it almost impossible for them to lose.
Yeah. That's literally what they do. They get after you so much defensively. I know we've talked about it a couple different times. They've got shot makers now. And in the past, they may have had one shot maker. You know, they've always had some guys that could play make and things of that nature. And they did always get after you defensively. But now they've got shot makers, and they've got a few of them. And that just makes them so dangerous to anybody, because, you know, they're always going to go after those offensive rebounds, but now they're just not missing as many. And, they're making these shots. And, and I do love what you said, to go back to the earlier point, is that they made themselves get better because, again, coming from the American, yeah, there could have been some nights off. Look, we're not trying to disrespect anybody, but, facts are facts. The American is not the same competition as the Big 12. You go on the road and they thought maybe, you know what? We can take a night off here. We can slack off here. We can go half speed and we can still win this game comfortably. Well, they did that and they got beat. That's the thing, is that, oh, okay, well, this is a different ball game altogether. We've got to be here night in and night out and be able to compete at the highest level. Because if we don't, we are literally going to lose. And that's a testament to them. But also, I think Fitz, somebody that doesn't get the credit maybe nationally that he should, and maybe now he will because he's in the Big 12, is Kelvin Sampson.
Right.
I think Kelvin Sampson is top 5 coach in America. Absolutely top 5 for what he gets. He doesn't always go out and get the 5-star guys, but he does get guys that play really hard. And in today's day and age of college basketball, it's tough to go out and get guys to buy into that style of play, that it's about the team. You're going to play extremely hard. You're going to play defense. All of that comes before we've even scored a point. All of that stuff comes into play there. And for him to get those guys to all buy in, it's a testament to him. And I think he should get more credit than what he deserves. And hopefully he starts getting that.
No, I agree. He belongs in the College Basketball Hall of Fame eventually. And, maybe this year they make a run to the title. What I love about this conference is all 4 of the teams left in this bracket are capable of making that run.
Yeah.
I think Iowa State is built to win a national title.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just got some nice pieces on the team. Again, they lead with defense. Sometimes they struggle scoring. That might be their Achilles heel, and what separates Houston from them as the top 2 teams in this conference. But what I saw from Iowa State last night against Kansas State, the way they play, the way they focused, the way they understand who they are and who can do what on the court and get them in those positions. Great coaching job by Otts. That team could win a national title too. This is going to be a very. NCAA tournament season for Big 12 fans, because of the emergence of Iowa State and the addition of Houston, let alone the other schools that are also capable of making runs.
Absolutely. So let's break down some of those games. But before we do, again, I just want to remind everybody, go and subscribe to the channel, not only to this channel, but also to the Big 12 channel on YouTube that we are starting. We got to get to 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible. And then eventually we'll make the move and push everything over to that channel. So if you guys could really help us out, continue to subscribe here, follow, comment, more importantly, all that good stuff. We appreciate all the support, but make sure on your way out, go over to Big 12, to the Big 12 Insiders on YouTube, and go subscribe there. And because these are also up on that page as well. So go make comments, likes, all that good stuff over there as well.
In addition to your Monday show, your Monday wrap up, that's exclusively on that channel. We're doing some shorts over there that have been really fun to do. They're not getting a ton of views, but you know what? It's a way to start kind of building the channel, get it a little traction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So breaking down these games, look, and we can start with the Houston game yesterday. I mean, I don't know. Houston literally TCU looked outmatched from the very beginning of that game, down 16-0, and it never got any better. It never got better. Houston took them out of anything they wanted to do. I think I read somewhere, Fitz, where it was the lowest field goal percentage shooting game by anybody in Big 12 history, or was that TCU history? I can't remember which, but either way, Houston took them out of everything they wanted to do and just beat them up. That's kind of because TCU is not a bad basketball team. They're not. No. Houston made them look like they were a bad basketball team. It was brutal. And
sometimes you get in those matchups and it just physically there's a difference. Yeah. It really isn't. TCU's really athletic, really talented. They're a roller coaster ride. I mean, it'd be tough being a TCU basketball fan because they're up and down quite a bit. But when they're up, they can play with anyone. is TCU a Sweet 16 team? I'm not going to be surprised if they're in the Sweet 16
Correct.
or even the Elite Eight. But we saw when they go up against an elite defensive team, it just takes them out of what they want to do. And I know it's kind of cliche, but I feel like Houston and Iowa State are just showing the way in a really brutal conference. Defense travels, and they just took it on the road and applied it, and they're applying it in Kansas City. If you want to be one of the best teams in this conference, you better be one of the best defensive teams in this conference.
Correct. Absolutely. Texas Tech, they kind of put it on BYU. BYU didn't shoot it well. I think Texas Tech had a lot to do with that. Tech, again, is one of those teams where wouldn't be surprised if they're in the Sweet 16 or make an Elite Eight run. Another one of those teams that get after you. They have a little bit of trouble rebounding the basketball, especially on the defensive end. But when they do, they're one of the best teams, and they shot it really well yesterday. They beat BYU kind of at their own game, Fitz. And while it was still a good game, it wasn't as close as what I think a lot of people thought it would be.
BYU is so capable of playing at a high level, but then they go and miss shots. Again, the opposite of defense. Shooting comes and goes, and sometimes they just can't hit anything. Ask
Right.
Kansas what happens when they do make shots.
Absolutely.
They can roll in and steal a win in Allen Fieldhouse, but if they don't make shots, they just don't have enough to back it up. And I think that's what makes BYU vulnerable in the tournament, but also equipped to beat anyone in the tournament, and then the next game get eliminated by upset. So I think that they're going to be a really fun team to figure out what they accomplish in the field of 68 or 72,
Right.
whatever it is now, 300. But they move it yet?
Yeah, I like what they bring to the table, and they're going to they'll be a handful, because I don't think a lot of people outside of the Big 12 understand how good Texas Tech really is. And I think they're going to surprise some people in the tournament when they come out and they smack you right in the mouth and then don't give an inch to you. I just don't think a lot of people, Fitz, are used to Big 12 style of basketball. Now, it's going to depend on the whistle. If we get, and when I say we, I'm talking about the Big 12. If the Big 12 gets a favorable whistle, the Big 12 is going to do some damage in this NCAA tournament. And I will throw this out there, this little tidbit. I've been watching some of the other games, Fitz, around the country, some of these conference tournament games. They've had a lenient whistle. They've let kids play. So if they allow that in the tournament, number one, it's better basketball. That's number one. But number two, it's really good for the Big 12. Really good. Breaking down. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It'll check the mettle of your team. I mean,
Absolutely.
I did last night with Kansas State. If they're really prepared to go toe to toe, or they're going to kind of back down, there's no way around it. They back down to Iowa State.
Yep, that's what I was just getting to. Iowa State stood toe to toe, challenged their manhood, and K-State just wasn't up to the challenge. There was a lot of contested shots at the goal, a lot of drives, a lot of bumping, and you could see it just when Kansas State was trying to initiate their offense. They just couldn't withstand. They're standing out 35 feet, almost 40 feet from the basket, picking up the dribble, not wanting to challenge defenders. You can't win like that. You just cannot win like that. Kansas State, we praised the day before Day-Day Ames on how well he played. Looked like a lost kid out there yesterday. He just looked like an absolute lost kid that didn't want to be out there. It was bad. But really bad. Iowa State's going to do that to you.
Oh, absolutely.
They're going to do that to you. They're that good. Again, another one of those teams, Fitz, that, yes, they had a high ranking, still have a high ranking, but I don't think the country really understands, because they don't have a superstar. I don't think the rest of the country understands how good that basketball team is.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think they're incredibly dangerous. They don't lean on one person. That's what I like about them. The big man stepped up and had a great game, but they can just do a bunch of stuff. But again, they've been less reliable in offense, particularly later in the season. They were really good last night, as K-State found out, but they just outwork you. If you're not going to go into an Iowa State game and be ready to get bloody knees diving on the floor and be physical in the game, you're not going to win. And K-State
Right.
matched that energy 5-6 days ago in Manhattan, and then absolutely forgot what it did in that game or the Texas game. Either game, they just abandoned all that and went back to being feeble and scared of being defended. And Brien, they had 12 steals. You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Yeah.
that you don't get 12 steals just because of good defense. You get 12 steals because of incompetent people on offense passing you the ball. That's what happened. They just had
Correct.
K-State so rattled they just controlled them.
Yeah, they couldn't figure it out. You saw guys trying to make passes from at the top of the key through 3 guys down to a low post guy across court. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I mean, that's what they do. It was unbelievable. It really was. Good season for Kansas State, but tournament, I think they blew their chance. And not only, here's the thing, we talked about this, losing to Iowa State, I think they probably had to win the game to get in, but you can't get blown out. And they got blown out, you know, and so I think that might be the end of the road. I know Kansas State fans are going to be upset with that, but truth is truth, you know, and you can't lose that way and look horrible and then think if you're on the bubble and think you're going to get in. That just doesn't work.
And you know how much I appreciate Jerome Tang as a coach and a person.
He was begging last night, Fitz.
Yeah, that 4-minute reading off of a cheat sheet about why your team belongs in. Look, we just had a 2-hour evaluation on the court.
Correct.
You know, you had a game, you had an opportunity where you recognized that most everyone recognized you play, you win, you're probably in.
Right.
And you lost by 19 points.
That's right.
That, no matter what you say at the podium after the game, no matter how compelling it is, and some of the arguments are very compelling, no matter what you list out, that 19-point loss we just saw is much louder. And unfortunately, I don't think anything he said is going to help his team situation.
No, not at all. And not to mention the one thing, I love Coach Tang, but the one thing he did last night, he mentioned another team on how their record was better than another team. That's a big no-no. You talk about your team, talk about what they do, talk about how they deserve to be in, but then don't go bashing somebody else and saying about what you've done is better than what they've done. First of all, you don't even know that team is in the tournament. That would be number one. But number two, you had an opportunity to control what you can control, and you didn't control enough. So now that's why you get on TV begging. I don't like it. Like I said, I respect Coach Tang. I think he's an outstanding coach, but you know, you just didn't do enough this year. It happens. It happens. So
yeah, and he has to be careful in these settings that he's a very comfortable man. He likes to joke around. He'll speak his mind, you know, but bringing up an Iowa State player, even if it was in jest with his own player, and Iowa State fans have taken that a lot out of context about the flopping thing, but just don't even bring them up. They don't even open that door. Just, you got to be careful, particularly in settings such as that, where the cameras aren't just from everywhere. They're going everywhere.
Absolutely.
They're available live to a lot of people. So you just got to be very cautious.
Correct. Last game of the night, Baylor wins the game. I don't know. Cincinnati fought, but I mean, they put up a good fight, but Baylor's just better than they are. And I think we kind of talked about that yesterday, what Cincinnati was going to have to do to win the game, and they didn't do it. And Baylor, I mean, it just came down to Baylor was just better than they were. And Baylor didn't play its A game either. Baylor wasn't just lights out or anything like that. They just, kind of methodically, they didn't go through the motions, but they just played a solid game and just said, our solid game is better than whatever you're bringing to the table. And it was. They were just better than UC yesterday.
Yep, they were. Cincinnati had to win 2 games to get themselves into that game. So there was probably some fatigue with the Bearcats.
Yep.
Look, Kansas State had 1 game and then played. They should have been fine. In fact, you might be in an advantage because you got a game under your belt. But the third game going up against a fresh team,
that's tough.
But they put their heart into it. They got after it. I wasn't able to watch most of the game because I was working covering K-State stuff. But like you started this off with, it came down to a simple fact. Baylor's better.
Yes.
And they denied the upset. and they advanced, which is all you got to do in the postseason. You don't get
Absolutely.
style points. You don't get, once you get your seeding, you got your road.
Right.
Now you have to go do it one game at a time. And Baylor showed that, and they have shown that they find a way to win in the postseason, and it's taking them to a national championship. And I'll be fascinated to see how far they go this year.
Absolutely. Good time to park a break right here, Fitz. On the other side of the break, everybody, we are going to talk about the games today, and then who we think is going to make the tournament. Well, first off, who's going to win the Big 12, but who do we think everybody, that the 9 teams, the top 9 teams, are going to be in the NCAA tournament? We will get to all of that and a little bit more after we hear from our sponsors, Synergy Financial Partners.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders, everybody. Again, this is your man, Brien Hanley, with Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowercat. All right, Fitz, games today. And again, top 4 seeds. I don't think anybody, and maybe if you're a fan of these teams, you expected to be here, but I think people that have paid attention to the Big 12 all year thought, okay, there's going to be somebody in here. It's not going to be chalk, but lo and behold, the top 4 seeds get in. Well, Houston against Texas Tech, Baylor against Iowa State. Let's start at the bottom of this time. Baylor, Iowa State. I mean, I think they're probably pretty evenly matched. Although, as far as defensive wise, Iowa State, I think, is leaps and bounds better. But offensive wise, I think Baylor is leaps and bounds better. But in a setting like this, neutral court, technically neutral court. I mean, Iowa State's going to pack that place. I think Iowa State, yeah, they're just going to pack that thing in. No Kansas State. I mean, I think the whole place will be Iowa State.
It will be.
And I think Iowa State is going to end up winning this game, Fitz. I think their defense will be a little bit too much. Baylor's really good. They can shoot it really good. But I think Iowa State gets after them, and I think they cause enough turnovers and score off those turnovers to be able to be the difference.
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a nightcap. And I'm just going to be that, like you said, I literally think that arena, it seats about 19,000. I'm guessing about 14 will be Iowa State fans.
Yep.
So I'm going to be interested to see how they handle the first game. But it's going to be a huge advantage. What incredible fans. Nobody loves Kansas City more than Iowa State fans. Even people from Kansas City don't love it that much. It's crazy. It's insane to watch how they invade. And for Kansas City's sake, I hope they beat Baylor just from an economic standpoint, because you don't want them packing up and going home.
Right.
So your championship game is 2 teams from Texas that don't travel as nearly as well. But I'm very intrigued by this game. It's a matchup of 2 really good coaches. They have some similarities and some, wide differences on how they construct their teams, but they both get after you. And whoever is most locked in on that is going to win this one. Yeah,
absolutely. I like Iowa State in this game. In the second game, well, technically it's the first game, but Houston against Texas Tech. I just think Houston is just better than Texas Tech. I know that's easy to say, and that's just really going off out on a limb there. But I just think that they're just a better basketball team. They look really focused, Fitz. A lot of times you get into these tournament type of settings, these conference tournament settings, and maybe they're not as focused as what they need to be. I don't see that out of Houston. Number one, I don't think their coach is going to allow that. That would be number one. But 2, I think the leadership on their team per se is not going to allow that either. They're an older group. And I think that means something, not only in Big 12 tournament play, but also NCAA tournament play. A lot of these teams you see out there are young, but the teams that have advanced here lately have been older, more mature groups. And that's what Houston's got. I think that fares well. Not only do I think they win this game, I do think they go ahead and win the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this being the first go round for Houston, just winning the title wasn't enough for them.
Nope.
They want to win the tournament too and be the absolute conference champion without a doubt. They value this. They find importance in it. And really, when you get to the conference tournament, that's what wins out. Kansas has always done that. Certainly, Iowa State does that. I almost feel like it's inevitable we're going to have a Houston-Iowa State final on Saturday because Houston is so good and Iowa State is so good in Kansas City, although they're really good this season. And I love the idea of having the two best teams, particularly defensive teams, squaring off for the title in this 1 year of this kind of transition expansion Big 12 before they get to the full 16 next year. I would love for this to be Houston, Iowa State, kind of a new generation of Big 12 basketball.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it would set it up to let everybody know, hey, you know what? We've got a showcase coming up on Saturday, and it's the two best teams in the best conference in the country.
Right.
Come watch this and see how basketball is played. I just, not that the other teams aren't capable. So I don't want to take away from anything, but that the other teams aren't capable of playing good basketball. But I think if you're really trying to showcase this thing, and for all the reasons, Fitz, that we've talked about how the Big 12 needs to put their best foot forward basketball wise, I think we got to we need that. The Big 12 needs that, don't they?
Yeah. They need this championship game tomorrow to be really compelling to watch, not just for Big 12 fans, but for the nation, to prove that this is a really viable, sellable product. Iowa State and Houston aren't known for having, I'm going to take that back with Iowa State. Houston isn't known for having a huge fan base. Iowa State isn't known for being from, one of those huge markets, but the fans are so invested that they act like a huge fan base. I mean, they've turned into a Nebraska of sorts. So every time they come to Kansas City, there's a red invasion and all the bush light disappears. Scientists can't figure it out. It's just the damnedest thing. The bush light's there and then it's gone. I think this is a really a cool marquee game for the Big 12 if it happens. But if it's Baylor and Tech, it kind of holds up too.
Absolutely.
The fact that, hey, look, there's no Kansas in this four. And it's a rare and weird situation. We all know it. Kansas fans are going through it. But look at the quality that still exists beyond Kansas. And that's the point. This conference was never about one or two programs. It's about the totality. There's a comment about no ninth place team should be in. I might argue that Oklahoma's a ninth place team may not be worthy of getting in, if that's how you want to look at it, because they have struggled. But this conference being ninth place, you said it yesterday. I saw the talking heads discussing New Mexico and who was it? They played in the Mountain West, and they said the winner's in and the loser might be in. And I'm like, hold on, you're telling me that New Mexico would come in and place ninth or better in the Big 12? Because I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it. I think New Mexico is a good team in the same way that Oklahoma State can beat anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they'd probably be down there with those schools. But while I say that, we look at the newcomers that came in and did make some hay in this conference. So I think it's so much more, I don't want to say easy. That's not what I mean. It's more applicable to come into the Big 12 and be able to recruit immediately and say, hey, we're playing Big 12 basketball and kids want to come.
Correct.
And I think you can really up your standing. Look at UCF. Nobody expected it, including UCF fans. And they were pretty competitive, and they're going to, in all likelihood, get one of those those home games into the NIT field.
Exactly. So, it kind of segue over into the NCAA tournament here. 9 teams seems to be the consensus on what gets into the tournament. Let's just kind of knock this one out first. Cincinnati and K-State were on the bubble. I don't think they make it in, Fitz. I think they lost their chance yesterday. I think both of them had to win. And if they did, I actually thought there was a chance that maybe both of them got in,
Yeah.
because of the high profile teams that they were beating and what their resume would look like. But now that they've both lost, I don't think there's any way possible that 10 teams make it in from the Big 12 this year.
I agree. I imagine the selection committee sighed with some relief when they saw Cincinnati and K-State not just both lose, but kind of eliminate themselves.
Correct.
Certainly K-State. Again, as much as Jerome Tang made really good arguments about the quality of wins and the quality of schedule and the quality of the teams they lost to at the time they played them, the overall statement was they're not quite good enough. So
Correct.
now this does kind of break off at 9, maybe 8. I am not sold on Oklahoma because of their struggles, and it went right into the tournament too.
It did.
But we'll see how it shakes out. And for the most part, the committee knows exactly who's in the tournament. There's just going to be some things they got to shake up if there's upsets in conference title games, and they want to include the conference champion from the regular season. That's the only place it gets a little hairy. But as of now, they caught a break, and they don't have a lot of turmoil, at least from the Big 12 perspective.
Correct. So having said that, obviously we've talked about Houston. We've talked about Iowa State, how good and what their prospects are. What are your thoughts on other teams like a BYU, a Texas Tech, TCU, and even Baylor? I think Baylor, I just think Baylor is, I don't say they're just as good as Iowa State, but I think they're just maybe a ring below them just because of how well they shoot the basketball fits. I think a lot of people, they look at their defensive numbers and defensive metrics, and if you get stuck in analytical nerd basketball, you're going to think at and you look at it and say, oh, okay, well, they're not that good. Yeah, Baylor's pretty good, people, because number one, they could shoot the basketball. They shoot 40% from three-point land. Not a whole lot of teams out there that are doing that. I think if you look at a team like BYU, I would not be surprised at all, Fitz, if they end up in the Sweet 16, because we've seen it before. A team gets hot, makes baskets, the way they shoot the three and they move their offense, they get hot for 2 games. That's all it takes, and then you're in the Sweet 16. Would not be surprised at all.
It's all about those matchups, brother. You don't know who you're going to pull. In a BYU, pull some teams that don't defend the three properly, and have problems with execution. Let's be honest. Baylor's incredibly efficient at everything they do.
Correct.
Mostly because they have a bunch of 40-year-old men. I'm joking, BYU fans, but that experience, that level-headedness that comes with the maturity of being a little bit older, I think really helps them play to their personality, which is efficient, doing things the right way, great passing. We've seen that. Just they're a joy to watch. They really are. And then when you throw in the 3-pointers, they'll beat anyone, anytime, anywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do in this tournament. I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody does in the tournament. I think the Big 12, I think this is a big year for the Big 12. Not that any other year isn't big, but with the way that conference realignment and everything is starting to shake out, I think this is a year that the Big 12 puts its best foot forward and says, hey, look at us. I know we mentioned this and talked about it a little bit earlier, but I think it's worth mentioning again, is that if they can put as many teams in the Sweet 16 as possible, I think Brett Yormark again can get out on his soapbox and say, hey, we're the best basketball conference in the country. You may say this and that about football, and we're still a good football conference. But in basketball, if you want to beat your chest about football, we're beating our chest about basketball. And there's really nothing that you can do or say that can deny that we are the best, and we deserve as much room at the table that you deserve in football. We deserve that in basketball. I think he's at that point without coming out and saying it, Fitz. Isn't he saying that?
Yeah. Yeah, this is huge for the conference. This offseason, or excuse me, this postseason is huge for the conference for exactly what you said. And what I like about this is if you look at the 9 schools we're thinking will get in, I only point to Oklahoma as the team. I just can't imagine them being in the Elite 8.
No.
The other 8 schools, if they make it to the Elite 8 like Kansas State did last year, I will not be surprised.
Correct.
I will be surprised if Houston doesn't make it to the Elite Eight, but I
Correct.
won't be surprised if some of those 8 schools make it. And if they make a serious splash and get 3 or 4 into the Elite Eight, I think it's undeniable what's going on and how dominant the conference has become.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to park one more break. We'll come back and end the show and just talk about the season as a whole, because we're not going to reconvene until Tuesday of next week. So we'll have a recap show on Monday, but that's a couple of minutes here or there talking about what happened and all that good stuff. But we won't reconvene again, Fitz, until Tuesday. So we'll know who's in, we'll know who's out. So I think this is just a good time to kind of just do a quick little recap of what happened in the Big 12. So one last break, one last word from our sponsor, Synergy Financial. We'll be right back.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. Again, Brien Hanley with Tim Fitzgerald. Fitz, before we do that, I want to throw a little shameless plug out there for myself.
Good. Do it.
BigBmerch.com, people. If you need to go get yourself a March Madness guide, something that breaks down coaches, teams, analytics, offense and defenses of efficiencies to help you win your bracket, go and get you a Big B March Madness guide. It's simple. It's $5. It's an ebook, so you can download it right to your phone, laptop, whatever you want to download it to, so you don't have to wait for shipping. It's a $5 purchase, not 20, 30. You got time before the tournament starts. You don't have to worry. Most bracket stuff doesn't even start until Thursday. So go pick you up one. Again, it's at bigbmerch.com. We appreciate everybody's support. So there's my shameless plug. There it is.
And let's remind everyone that make sure you're subscribing to this YouTube channel if you're watching on the GoPowercat one, if you're a K-State fan in particular. But also, please hop over and follow the new Big 12 Insiders page. Subscribe to that. Again, it's free. We need to get to 1K over there. We'd certainly like to replicate and get up around 10K eventually, but that'll be a process before we can move this show completely onto that channel. It exists over there. We got some hours to build up, and we got some work to do, but help us do that work and help us reach everyone. We've got almost 700 people in here right now, Big B. A lot of those are probably on X. It looks like a lot of our comments are on YouTube though. So I'm excited about the future of the show. It's kind of getting some traction, but make sure you support us. Go watch those shorts. Brien and I have fun. We can make clear thoughts in 58 seconds. That's what we got. We got 58 seconds to say something. It's not easy. We're both long-winded, but we managed to do it. And I put up a different short yesterday. I don't know if you saw that, the Brett Yormark short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had fun with that.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's all fun, man.
Yeah, exactly. We love covering this conference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Look, you gave me this opportunity, and I couldn't be more not only excited, but grateful. But I just love covering the conference and talking about it. Being a former player and playing in it, it's totally different now, Fitz, than what it was 25, 26 years ago. But I've stayed in contact. I've followed it the entire time. I am about as entrenched in this conference as you can be. I love where it is. I love the setting of the Big 12. I also love the fact that they came out and said the Big 12 tournament was going to be in Kansas City. Was it through 2031?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that fact. I know a lot of people that are new don't like it. They came in, well, what's Kansas City? And I'm like, just go to the tournament before you start bad mouthing it. We're not saying that Kansas City is New York City. All we're saying is you want to go to watch a good weekend of college basketball tournament. It's a great environment. Go and experience it first before you badmouth it.
What makes Kansas City amazing, Big B, is people are talking about, well, we want to go to Vegas. We want to go here, there, because there's Orlando, there's amusement parks. Vegas, you can gamble. You know what people do when they come to Kansas City? They watch basketball.
Yep.
That's what we're talking. We're talking about a basketball tournament. If you want to go to Vegas and not watch basketball, cool. You can do that anytime. In fact, it's not a bad place to go and watch it at a sports book. I mean, go pay big money, park your ass at Circa, and have yourself a day.
Correct.
But in Kansas City, people go to watch the games, whether they go in the arena or they're just simply drinking in the Power and Light District or hanging out. There's so many great bars. And now downtown Kansas City is blowing up beyond that. Hell, they might have the Royals across the street from the arena here in I don't know how many years, but it's a really cool place. And you can wander down. There's so many things in Kansas City that aren't right around that arena. I mean, you just go down the road a little bit. My favorite barbecue is just down Baltimore. Jack Stack in the Freight House is my favorite place to eat barbecue in Kansas City. You're not that far from the original Joe's. It's just it's all about hoops. And when you go to Joe's, even though it's miles away from the arena, everyone there will either be there because of the Big 12 tournament or know about the Big 12 tournament. Almost everyone in that restaurant on that particular day could have a discussion with you about what's going on inside the arena.
Absolutely.
It's important.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is important. It's important for the city. That's one of the things that Kansas City is. I always describe it. It's a big little city. That's how I describe Kansas City, and they take pride in it. It's a really good tournament environment. That's really, really good. Having said that, I think Houston makes the Final Four. I think Iowa State has a really good chance of making it to the Final Four. If they play like they played last night, Iowa State's getting to the Final Four. The other team, I call BYU because of the way they can shoot the ball. I like Baylor. I just have a feeling, unfortunately, that Baylor might get in trouble with their defense and that they may get into a game to where they're having to stop somebody and they can't do it. That's my fear with Baylor. Tech, I don't know that can make enough shots, but I think we're going to have at least 4 teams in this Sweet 16, Fitz. I think 4 teams is a good, fair number, maybe even more. It might be even more. Now, if you get 9 teams in, I mean, I don't know how you bracket or seed all those things, but sooner or later, doesn't a Big 12 team have to play somebody?
Yeah. I mean, I can see them doing 2 per bracket, and then Oklahoma and Dayton maybe to earn their way into a bracket. Houston certainly will be the top of a bracket. I feel for Kansas fans. I don't see how they're going to have injuries bounce back within a week of warehouse.
No.
Neither. I think they're going to be overseeded. They will for what they'll put on the court, and they're an opportunity for someone to beat them. But also, Bill Self's an amazing coach. He'll probably find a way to win in a couple games. We'll see.
Yeah, that was the one team I was going to bring them up after that. Is nobody seems to be talking about Kansas because of where they finished in the conference, injury issues. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Kansas can be down. They can have what they have. But the one thing that Kansas always has, or at least now they have that nobody else does, is Bill Self. And that means something. It just does. The guy is unbelievable. He knows how to prepare a team for the tournament. So we'll see what happens. So, but I appreciate everybody being here today. Again, we'll be back. We're here Tuesday through Friday at 1 p.m. Central Time. We appreciate everybody showing in. Remember, if you didn't catch us live, remember to go subscribe, like, comment, as well as on the Big 12 page, Big 12 Insiders page on YouTube. We appreciate everybody being here. We will be back on Tuesday, and we'll go over some tournament stuff then, but we appreciate everybody being here, guys. Have a good weekend.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.